Welcome to the Radical Responsibility Revolution podcast. This is where we are transforming lives, inspiring you to reclaim your health, your wealth, and the power of your mind. Here we share actionable insights, inviting you to turn inwards and design your life of purpose and abundance. Hello, my beautiful souls, and welcome back to another episode of the Radical Responsibility Revolution. I'm your host, the Queen of Magic, Debbie Dobbins, and today's episode is sizzling with truth, soul, and liberation. I feel like what I hear in the world today is everybody feels they've lost their freedom somehow, and there's a lot of different layers to it. Before we dive in, I want to share something with you. My inner billionaire circle is open. And for the rest of July, you can join for only $79 a month. It's normally $99. And even at $99 a month, this is exceptional because you get access to all of my programs and every program that I bring forward as we go into 2026. It's a sizzling summer magic offer. Inside this circle, you get monthly mentoring sessions, a sacred community of beautiful, like-minded women rising into their purpose, power, and prosperity. It's so important to surround yourself with like-minded individuals on the path so you can be supported. It's really challenging on your own. I can assure you, I've been there, done that, got the t-shirt. You can absolutely awaken on your own, no question about it. I've also done that. But why do it alone when you can do it with sisters who see your light? The link is in the show notes, so grab your seat. And now let's dive into today's episode. I'm calling it Abundance Isn't a Vibe. It's a wake-up call. I'm going to be talking about abundance from a different perspective. I share on probably every podcast that I'm on. I share in my book, abundance is a frequency. Let's understand what that means because abundance doesn't start with your bank account. I want to make that really clear. I wrote a book called Your Inner Billionaire, and I titled it that because I wanted to trigger some kind of part in your brain that gets scrambled because we don't allow ourselves to dream big enough. It doesn't start with your bank account. It starts with you. It doesn't start with your job. It doesn't start with your followers or your investments. I just finished a book on investing. This is not where your abundance starts. And it doesn't even start with your vision boards. Right? I've got a whole chapter in the book on vision boards that's different than anything you probably ever experienced. Because this starts deep within your soul, in that quiet, sacred space where your soul whispers, remember. Remember. You know, I think that's the most important message I've received over the past 4 decades. It's about remembering the truth of who we are. And those whispers to remember, those are your divine activations, your inner remembering of who you are and what you came here to do. And we have spent so much time forgetting and then covering up the truth of who we are and the fact that our inherited beingness is abundance. It's that moment when you can no longer pretend that numbing out is enough. We numb out drugs, alcohol, sex, exercise, work, scrolling, doom scrolling. There's so many ways that we as humans are numbing ourselves out. And we've also believed, because we've been imprinted with, that hustling harder is your destiny. That is not the truth. Hustling harder is not your destiny. You've also learned that you shrink yourself to fit in, and that is a betrayal of your brilliance. These soul whispers, these little whispers, are not always loud. As a matter of fact, they're whispers, so they're very, very quiet.
and you have to be quiet to hear them. Interestingly, they're often disguised as discomfort, as triggers, as malaise, because those are messages. And that weird in between feeling when what used to light you up suddenly doesn't anymore. These are all messages. And what we look at them as is something that we don't want to look at, something that makes us uncomfortable, something that we want to shift and change. But we shift and change in the same way that we've always been. But what's beautiful is when you're in that void, it's tempting to distract yourself, using all of that numbing to scroll, to binge, to keep producing like your worth depends on it. And extra producing is not where your worth is located. But my beautiful sister, the void is sacred. It's the pause before your expansion. So if you feel like you're going through the rock crusher, that's a beautiful place to be, because the beauty is on the other side of that. I say this because I've experienced it. You get a lot of wisdom being on this planet for 70 years if you're on this path, and I've sat in that stillness, exhausted, burned out from carrying others, and ignoring my own divine needs. And you know what I found? I found a deeper magic than I had ever known before. Not because I powered through, but because I finally listened. Listen to that deep inner wisdom. This right here, right now, is your invitation to listen to that intuitive knowingness that all of us have. It's just that we haven't turned our frequency to it. It's time to stop outsourcing your truth. We have so much found ourselves listening to other people's truths and taking it as our own, when the real truth is you must listen to your inner wisdom without all of the noise outside of you. It's time to reclaim your radical responsibility for your entire existence, because we don't take responsibility for our existence. We're pointing fingers that other people are making us feel a certain way, that if so and so didn't do this, then I wouldn't behave this way. So let's talk about what that really means. I talk about frequency so much because our frequency is what is creating everything that we see in our 3D world. Scarcity is a frequency. Lack is a frequency. Victimhood is a frequency. And so scarcity, this whole notion of it, it's a lie. It's beautifully marketed, though. It's culturally normalized. We are listening to other people actually take up like scarcity is a badge of honor. And it's not. It's a multi-generational lie. From the moment we were born, we were handed scripts about lack. We have these scripts because they've been passed down through generations. Those scripts of not enough money, not enough time, women, not enough beauty, we don't look good enough, somebody else looks more beautiful, so therefore they're better and they deserve more. And one of the biggest lies is not enough safety. Safety comes from us actually believing that we are safe. So many women listening today, it's become a nervous system default. You go into it expecting the struggle and then wonder why the struggle shows up. We prepare for the letdown, the other shoe to drop. If you are expecting that, guess what? You will get it. We rehearse our suffering like a script we never auditioned for. It's quite remarkable if you begin to look and observe your own thoughts, because we're cast in these scripts we've created for ourselves that are not true, they're lies. And yet we believe them as if they are reality. And then abundance enters the chat. Not as a number or a lifestyle, but also a frequency. Just like lack, just like poverty, just like scarcity, abundance is a frequency. It's just a matter of dialing it in like you turn a radio station. It's a choice. It's a state of inner knowing that says, I am not my circumstances. Repeat that. I am not my circumstances. I am not my bank balance. I am not my trauma. I am not my mother's beliefs or society's ceiling. Think about that for a second. If you take all of those away, those things that you are not, what does that leave you with? An affirmation: I am a living, breathing, sovereign force of nature, which you are. You are a sovereign force of nature. You are wired for joy, ease, and overflow. And until we begin to recognize that, trust in that, build our faith upon that, we will continue to expect what we've always expected. From that frequency of abundance, every choice you make changes. Every choice is a different choice that comes from love and expecting good. And you also, things begin to shift. You begin to eat differently. You begin to speak differently. You begin to respond to setbacks differently. You begin to build, invest, receive, and even rest differently. You begin to be different because your mind and your body are working together with a new frequency. And think about that. If you're eating differently, speaking differently, responding to setbacks differently, building, investing, receiving, and resting differently, your whole life will shift. The vibratory energy will be so high, and that frequency will bring in the most magnificent life you can imagine. Choosing abundance isn't about always feeling good. I can tell you that. It is not always about feeling good, but we get to shift when it's not feeling good, because it's about telling the truth about where you've been operating from and having the courage to choose a different vibration, even when it's unfamiliar in that moment. I've had that experience recently where I'm shifting all of those things, the way I eat, the way I speak, the way I set boundaries. When we choose to be different, our programming is resistant to that. It's our programming that wants to stay in that familiar. We have to consciously choose to feel differently. If you're doing all the things that you feel like you would be as that new person, that keeps pushing up against those old ideas, those old feelings. It's about being conscious and intentional. And choosing abundance means you don't get to keep blaming external systems forever. That is something I struggle with, because we want to begin to look at all of these external things causing our behavior. My closest relationship is with my mother, so it's a 70-year relationship. And there's never been a time in my life where I didn't look to why I'm performing or acting or behaving the way that I am, that I don't look back at my experiences throughout my life with her. But I can't blame that for my current circumstances, just as you can't blame your ex. We can't blame the economy. It's fascinating how all these cyclical things happen. But if we say that someone or something is responsible for my behavior, it's causing it, that is victimhood. So we aren't going to blame the mom. We certainly aren't going to blame the IRS, and definitely not the billionaires. It's fascinating that abundance, we want abundance, yet we've been programmed to shame people who are abundant because it's only our desire to have what they have. So let's talk about one of my hot button topics right now, billionaires. I think it's fascinating that when I wrote this book, and I shared this in the first intro to the podcast, Your Inner Billionaire. I've had people that love that title, absolutely love it. And there's other people that absolutely reject it. And it isn't about the title, it's about the money stories that those people, when they see your inner billionaire, that somehow being a billionaire equates to wrong. And that's not true. There is no wrong or right. But here's what I want you to hear. The word billionaire, when I wrote the book and came up with that title, is meant to activate you. It's meant to activate you, to expand your perception. What is your perception of a billionaire? You want to be one? You think they should never be on the planet? They're terrible, they're greedy. I would love to experience being a billionaire. What is that perception? Because that's where we begin the work. It's designed to interrupt your limitations. It's not about a number. It's about a frequency. So what frequency are you sending out right now? Are you sending out a frequency of possibility? An unapologetic abundance? Or something else? So when I hear politicians say things like billionaires shouldn't exist, it pains me, honestly, that the message going out to the masses is that it's not okay to strive for that even. Think about that. If billionaires shouldn't exist, no matter how much you think you want more good, more abundance in your life, I sure the hell don't want to be a billionaire because they shouldn't even exist. Bernie Sanders said their greed is destroying this country. And I paused when I heard that because that's not the truth. That is a mantra that somebody is coming up with to control you into believing that you can't achieve your dreams. That is a lie. What they're doing is villainizing success, innovation, and personal responsibility. You cannot achieve anything without personal responsibility. Period. End of discussion. You can't become a world-class athlete, a classical pianist or musician, a singer-songwriter, own your own business. You can't achieve anything without personal responsibility. That's why I named this podcast Radical Responsibility Revolution, because I want a revolution in our world that says, I am taking responsibility for my life, for the ways that I think, the ways that I feel, the ways that I act, and the way that I move. So let's get clear. There are only 756 billionaires in America. I already did a video on that, or a podcast last week. And yet they're being treated like the root of all poverty. This is what's so hilarious. They are not the root of why somebody else is in poverty or in lack or being a victim. No one is a victim unless they choose to be a victim. Even people that have experienced severe trauma, women that have been raped, can fall into that victimhood. People that have had life-threatening diseases, I be one of them. You can learn to say, I am looking at this as a jumping off place for me to learn to be more of who I am, or you can let it swallow you up. So when it comes to billionaires, where would we be without Elon Musk, right? No Teslas, no advancements on how he's helping with spinal injuries, no Jeff Bezos, Amazon, right? Oprah, what? Oprah. We wouldn't have Amazon, Tesla, Netflix, Google, Walmart, SpaceX, or Home Depot. Like literally, these things that we love in our lives, yet we want to demonize. My brain gets a little scrambled when I hear these conversations. We want to demonize the things that we love. We have come into this world and had all of these amazing advancements, and we want to demonize those that created them for us. These people didn't steal their wealth, they created it. You have the same tools and abilities as every single one of them. It's just that they were very driven and they solved problems. This is what business does. It solves a problem. They built these empires that we all use. You can do that too. You have everything right here, right now, that you need to create your own empire or your own little business that makes you happier than anything. We should just vilify Bezos, right? You don't get to eat Mars candy or binge Bridgerton on Netflix and pretend billionaires are the problem. If we're going to have a real conversation about responsibility, it starts with how you participate in this economy. You play an integral part in the entire scheme of the universe. You are a unique expression of the one. And so your puzzle piece is needed in this whole scheme of everything, especially in the idea around abundance and the economy. And if anything, billionaires reflect back to us what's possible. So look at that as what you have possible in front of you instead of demonizing it. And if we truly want to talk about what's hurting people, let's look at a few things that make me a little nutty. Big pharma, big food, and the way those industries profit off of disease, depression, and disconnection. Letting somebody else tell us how we are going to live our lives. We are not taking radical responsibility for ourselves. When we are handing away our autonomy and our sovereignty to a medical professional who's going to prescribe a drug, when we give away our responsibility in the grocery store by not looking at labels and seeing the poison that we are putting into these beautiful bodies, when we see that there are companies out there, these industries, that are profiting off of your disease, your depression, and your disconnection, we need to be responsible for knowing that is what is impacting our life. So let's stop pretending that someone else's success is your limitation. The only limitation that you have is self-imposed. There is no outside limitation, because I can assure you there is always a way to move through any limitation that shows up in your life. I share in my book, I've overcome drug addiction, major debt to the IRS, and cancer. I'm thriving as a cancer survivor. And it's so important that you understand that no matter what is going on in your life, you can beat it, my beautiful queens. You were born for abundance, and your soul knows this. Your cells know this. But oh, that programming, that little script early on, your trauma, your generational lineage, that's what's confused and caused you to forget that you are abundance. And the only way out of any of it is in you, inside, from within. You have got to be willing to sit in the discomfort of waking up. You've got to stop blaming. That is such a big one. So many people, and I am guilty of it as anybody else, and yet I'm aware, because becoming aware of what and who you are blaming is the first step in this. We've got to stop outsourcing our power, right? We're giving away all of our sovereignty and our agency to other people because they supposedly doctors, lawyers, accountants, and we don't know anything. We don't understand how money works. We don't understand how our body works. We don't understand how the law works to support us. When we don't know, we are outsourcing to people that don't know very much either. It's a pretty challenging situation. We have got to stop numbing. I want you to, after you listen to this podcast, I want you to go start your day and begin being aware. How are you numbing? When do you take yourself out? When do you go on autopilot and then wonder why you're getting the same results? And that numbing literally takes the form of drug addiction, alcoholism, workaholism, working out, sex addicts, scrolling and being on the screen, and then being on the internet and being keyboard warriors and just fueling your anger and that low vibrational energy. It's numbing and it doesn't keep you aware and it leaves no frequency for abundance. None. You've got to stop making victimhood sacred. Oh my gosh. Think about it. When I say the word victim, a lot of people think, oh, well, I didn't ever get raped. I didn't get an IED in a foreign country. Victimhood is just when you say, I am not responsible for what is happening to me in this moment. Somebody else caused that. The government, my mom, my husband, my work, my boss, my friends. But here's what I know from a lived experience, which I love. Kamala Harris says this all the time. From my lived experience, I want to tell you, my lived experience is you can rewrite your money story. Period. Now, what does that mean? Well, you have to know your money story to begin to rewrite it. You can build a business without hustle. Yes, you're going to have to put some energy into it. When I talk about hustle, I mean that frenetic energy that I have done plenty of times in my life. But you can build a business without that frenetic hustle. Being very energy conscious of motivation and intention. And you can manifest relationships that honor your soul. So if you're not surrounding yourself with relationships that are feeding your soul, it's time to look at that and say, wow, I think I need some new relationships. You can also live in overflow. No matter what CNN or TikTok tells you, you can live in overflow. You can be so abundant, so prosperous, just right now with a shift in your mindset and your feelings inside of your body. But you have to want it more than you want your old stories. That's the key. You're going to continue to get more of your old story in different forms, same shit, different day. You have to take radical responsibility for all of it. Your actions, your thoughts, your feelings, your behavior. That's why I created the Inner Billionaire Circle, to remind women that you are not broken. You are not too late. You are not behind. And you are not powerless. Please hear that. You're not powerless. As a matter of fact, you have more power in your little pinky than you ever dreamt of. You are a frequency, and you are in charge of your frequency, and you get to raise it, turning that dial, or you get to lower it. If you raise it, absolute magic happens. So come and join us. This isn't about vibes and vision boards. This is the embodied power, spiritual fire and conscious choice that will allow you to be exactly who you vision yourself. Your abundance isn't a vibe. It's a wake-up call. Now you've heard the truth, and your soul has been ringing it for a long, long time. Here's the truth, and you've been ignoring it. So I ask you today, are you finally ready to answer the call? You're absolutely answering a call that your soul has been whispering to you forever. If you're ready, I'm ready to support you, along with this tribe of beautiful women who are raising their frequency, dialing it in to allow what is in front of them to reflect everything that's inside. Thank you very much. If you love this podcast, share it with a friend. And all of the information for opting into the Inner Billionaire Circle is in the show notes. Bye-bye. Queen of Magic out.